Tony Hawk's American Wasteland is the 7th game in 7 years from the duo of Activision and Neversoft. Take a moment to let that sink in. They say that time flies when you're having fun, and the Tony Hawk series holds up that theory. But over the last few installments, the developers have been focusing less on making major changes to the gameplay and instead attempting to develop a more interesting story mode to wrap up all that skating action. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland goes even further in this direction, and it finally gets the story thing done right. However, some of the game's other touted features don't work out as advertised. I'm talking specifically about the game's ability to stream one big version of Los Angeles with no load times. Technically, that's true. The version of LA you skate in the game's story mode doesn't really pause to load, but the areas, like say between Hollywood and Beverly Hills, are broken up by long corridors. These corridors mean that you're technically still skating, but all they're really doing is giving you a tight enclosed area to slowly skate through while the game loads up the next section. The game tends to hitch up in these areas too. But enough about that. The story mode actually tells an interesting story, which is a nice improvement. It tells the story of a runaway skater, tired of life in the Midwest, escaping to Los Angeles with dreams of skating at the spots that made skating famous. Of course, as soon as you've set foot off the bus, you're jacked for all your belongings. That's when you meet Mindy, a raspy-voiced girl who offers to help you out and teach you a few skate tricks. She eventually hooks you up with her crew, a ragtag group of skaters squatting on a piece of land known as the skate ranch. A big part of what you do in the story mode is steal various bits of scenery for the skate ranch. This means that a lot of the goals have you wrecking and vandalizing various parts of Los Angeles. You'll get a big dinosaur head, car parts, a limo, slot machines from a casino, even the Hollywood sign. Each piece is automatically placed into the skate ranch, which you can return to at any time. The story mode is interesting, but just when you start to get attached to the characters, it's over. It ends rather abruptly, too. Experienced Tony Hawk players will be able to cruise through this mode in no time because the game's shockingly easy. It seems odd that after 7 years and 7 games, the series would go so far in the direction of attempting to attract players who were unfamiliar with the series. But really, the game holds your hand so much throughout the story that even new players probably won't get much out of the mode. Another problem with the story mode is that the whole thing feels like a tutorial at times. You start out missing most of the tricks you've come to expect from the series. You earn many of them back almost immediately, and also learn the game's new tricks like the Burt slide taken directly from Dogtown and Z-Boys. But you'll get a significant way through the game without being able to use special tricks, for example. Also, most of the game's goals line you right up with the precise objects you need to hit to succeed. This reduces most goals to simple acts of hitting the right buttons at the right time, taking away most of the skill that previous games relied on. While some may have claimed that some of the previous Tony Hawk games were too difficult, this one's such a huge swing back in the other direction that it's really a shock. One would hope, then, that Classic Mode would be the part of the game where longtime fans get their kicks. It's modeled after the first 3 games in the series, where you had 2 minutes to complete a level's goals. Completing them meant you didn't have to do them again, but if you were seriously badass, you could complete all 10 goals in one 2-minute span. Unlike last year's game, Classic Mode here actually has separate levels from the single player. It collects a handful of levels taken from previous Tony Hawk games. Unfortunately, this series has been doing the retro thing for a few years now, and as a result, most of the series' best levels have already been remade, leaving behind a few good but not great levels from the series' past. Additionally, this mode feels short too. If all you're trying to do is get these levels open so you can play them online, you'll get there in around an hour or 2. Underneath all this stuff, though, is a gameplay system that still feels really sharp. While it's not as exciting on its own as it has been in the past, simply skating around the game's environments and doing tricks is fun on its own. Also, you can ride BMX bikes in the story mode, which control completely differently from the game's skateboards. There are a lot of little touches like this in there that show flashes of something bigger, but the way the game's goals are structured really seems to play against this. The multiplayer is one of the spots where you can just cut loose and skate. The game gets online on the PlayStation 2 and, for the first time, on the Xbox as well. Just be warned that most of the players playing Tony Hawk games online are, at this point, completely wicked ruthless. You will lose. I have lost. I will continue to lose. We'll all lose. Seriously, these guys are crazy regardless of which mode you're playing in. If you're comparing the game on different platforms, you might instinctively want to reach for the Xbox version. It is, as you'd expect, the best looking of the 3 versions. But the Xbox controller just wasn't built for this sort of action. The 4 shoulder buttons found on the PlayStation 2 are just the right way to play the game. The PS2 version doesn't look bad either, especially if you have a widescreen progressive scan TV. The GameCube version looks muddy, and its controller is below the Xbox's when it comes to playing this type of game. It's still good when compared to other GameCube games, but it should be your last choice if you own multiple systems. American Wasteland is a good game that, unfortunately, doesn't last long enough to entertain fans that have stuck with the series over the years. And its unimaginative goal structure makes it even easier. While there's still a good, solid game here, it doesn't shine as brightly as past games in the series have.